Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. My guest today is Terri Maxwell, and she is a world-class business growth expert, a social impact investor, and a serial entrepreneur whose purpose is to inspire potential. In a career that spans more than 25 years, Terri has launched, owned, sold, rebranded, and turned around more than 40 companies. She is known for her game-changing business models and personal transformation frameworks. Everything she built came directly from a wellspring of perseverance and soulful resiliency, which she openly shares through her first purposeful brand, Succeed on Purpose. Wow. Well, welcome, Terri. It's really a privilege to talk to somebody who's turned 40 companies around.
It's fun to do that.
Yeah, well, but it's a challenge as well. And so you said that you specifically invented a methodology because you didn't like selling. So was that to help you turn companies around, or what is the methodology that you invented?
Yeah, so I'd had a corporate career and I was successful inside those companies. But when I became an entrepreneur, the one thing that held me back is I didn't like to sell. And so I found a way to do it and that worked for me, and a way to do it authentically. And that turned into a methodology that I've been teaching entrepreneurs now for over a decade.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's interesting. Most entrepreneurs don't like to sell. Most speakers, coaches that I know don't like to sell. So this methodology would be great for everybody, I guess. So you also talk about authentic demand generation. And authentic seems to be the buzzword of this current time. What is demand generation?
Yeah, so most people don't really understand. When they think of authentic marketing, they don't really understand what they really want is authentic demand generation. Demand generation is when people want your products. So they're coming to you on a regular basis and saying, hey, tell me about what you do. And if you just picture a networking event, if you've ever been to one and people are jamming their cards in your hand, that's not only inauthentic, but it's not demand generation. Demand generation is people can't wait to meet you. They can't wait to talk to you. They want to learn more about your product. And so what I figured out was not only the authentic part and how to make it be specific to who I am as a person, but demand generation, so that people were coming to my website and they were asking for more information without me having to push it on them.
But, aren't there some things that people have that they didn't even know, that people don't know they want? I mean, people talk about the iPhone, for example, or some of the Apple products that come out that people don't even know they want. And I think there are other things that come out that we don't, until they are here, we don't know we want them. What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, let's use the iPhone because I think it's a perfect example of authentic demand generation. None of us knew we wanted it until we saw the first ad. And the ad, simply showed somebody talking on the phone or searching on the phone and then stopping when the phone rang and picking it up. That's all it said. It didn't say anything about, here's the new iPhone. It didn't say anything about these are the features of the iPhone. Oh, by the way, it does, whiz bang this and whiz bang that. They simply showed how it made your life better. Just think back to that original ad. I think it was 12 years ago when the iPhone was launched and those commercials came out. And that idea of just simply showing people how their lives could be better with your product is what demand generation is all about. It's not talking about why you're great. It's simply showing people how their life could be great using their product.
So, do you think that, is it just generating demand authentically, or is it because I'm sure there are things out there that people are not aware of that they need, or that they would find convenient, or it would make life easier for them. I mean, I think sometimes when you look at the infomercials that are on TV, you don't need know you need those things until you see them. And boy, they do a bang up business because those infomercials no longer are cheap. It costs a $250,000 to even put one on. So, what do you say about that?
Yeah, and you're right, Gail, that the infomercial idea is really what we're talking about with demand generation. It's really showing people why the product is great. The key about authentic demand generation is really thinking about your buyer before they become a buyer and really thinking about what they need. For example, we know that our buyer struggles with the fear of starting a business and growing a business or something like that. So we created tools on our website that are free that help them really sort out what those fears are really about. And what happens is people come to the website for the tool to really better understand what's holding them back in their business. And while they're at the website, they're looking at all the other really cool things that we do. That's what authentic demand generation is. It's bringing people to your website so that they can be served before you're actually trying to sell them. And if when you really get that right, it's just simply about talking and thinking about your buyer before they become a buyer. My best analogy for this is when you go to the grocery store on a Saturday and there are all of those samples there and you're trying this product and that product. You didn't even know they had that particular jam or that particular type of cracker, but now that you know it, you're more interested in it. It's the same type of thing.
But I think it's brilliant that you're able to do this with this methodology that you have. In other words, if I'm interested in starting a business and I don't know if and where the demand is, by using your tools, I'm able to analyze that, correct?
Totally. And it's we call it the 4 F's of authentic demand generation. It's thinking about your buyer like a relationship. First, we need to become friends and you need to be aware that I exist. Then follower, so you're paying attention to what I say and do. And then you would become a fan as you try one of my free whatever, or try something of value, attend a webinar or whatever it is. And then when you actually use my product and you have transformation, you become a fanatic and then you tell other people about it.
Well,
so when you think about your buyer,
that makes real sense.
Exactly, Gail. So when you think about your buyer as a relationship and not as somebody you're going to get to buy from you, you begin to think about your words and your actions and your tools a lot differently.
But does that take longer than traditional advertising or getting the word out? I mean, it's because you're going through an analysis. So, I mean, does it take a longer time, or or does it make for a stronger client, or what?
It's actually a little bit of both. So it feels as if it's taking longer in the beginning, but two things happen. One, when you're interacting with the client in those earlier phases, you're starting to serve them rather than sell to them. And so the sales cycle actually shortens and your close rate, if you will, goes up. The really cool thing, and that's back to the demand generation idea, is when you authentically serve people before they buy, and then when they buy and they have a great experience, they'll tell people for you, and then you don't need to advertise.
Wow. So how do you suggest building a relationship with a buyer? How do you do that? I mean, I know you've got to appeal to what their needs and wants are, but how do you build that relationship? Is it trust, or what is it?
So there's 3 aspects of doing it. There's first what we call channels. And channels is, where is your buyer tuned in? Where are they hanging out? Are they on LinkedIn, Facebook? And if so, where are they in those spaces? Or are you going to meet them at a networking event? So you need to know what channel they're listening to, and you need to be wherever that channel is. The second is activities. You want to do activities that you enjoy. So for example, I'm an introvert. I don't like to go to networking events. So that doesn't work for me. So I wouldn't be authentic if I went to a networking event every week. Other people like it. I love to do speaking and I love podcasts like this. Other people aren't comfortable doing that. So this is an example of me doing something I love, which is talking to other entrepreneurs such as yourself. I'm enjoying that. I'm having a good time. This isn't like marketing to me, yet at the same time, there are a lot of people who are being exposed to my brand. So the activities, the key with the activities is do things that you enjoy on the channels where your customers are hanging out. And as people become aware that you exist and interested in what you have to say, they will start to come to you. And from that standpoint of that, to the last piece, after you got channels first and then activities second. And then the third is really just loving on them in the process. You know, when somebody signs up for one of our free tools, our free fear assessment, or are you a business owner, or one of our free training programs, when they do that, what's happening is they're getting exposed to who we really are. And we send them follow-up encouragement. You know, we hope you enjoyed, XYZ. It's not, I'm trying to get you to buy from me. And that, just loving on people as they start to become aware with you strengthens the relationship. And when they're ready to buy, they'll buy.
Well, I think all of that is really important. And it's interesting, that you say you're not an extrovert, you're an introvert, and yet you like to get up in front of people and speak, and you like to do podcasts and radio shows. And that's interesting. Now, I'm very much of an extrovert, and I love networking, but I don't give people my business cards unless they ask for them. And I think you first have to go to a person when you are networking and ask what you can do for them, not so much what they can do for you. And I think that makes a big difference. But do you think that every business owner, because we've got 100 different businesses you may deal with, they have and need the same activities, or do you handle each one individually?
Well, that's the really cool thing about the methodology. There's 50 different activities for them to choose from. And we just say, pick 3 to 4 that you really enjoy doing. Because if you really, as an extrovert, if you really enjoy going to a networking event and hanging out with people in that way, then it's going to come across. If I go there, I'm like the wallflower in the corner and I'm not having a good time, and people can sense that. Yeah. So of those 50 activities, you pick the 3 to 4 you love doing. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like selling. I'm doing my thing. I'm having a good time. This is great. And in the process of that, people feel that like, wow, I want to get to know that person, or wow, what does she do? And that's how I found your podcast. I found your stories interesting, and the people that you interviewed I found fascinating, and I thought, wow, Gayle's somebody I want to get to know. Well, you didn't market to me. Whether you knew it or not, you were building a relationship with me, and that's all we've done is operationalize that, Gayle.
That's so funny, because my son took me out for a birthday brunch this past week, and they led us to a table. He was parking, and they led us to a table, and I knew it was not a table that he would like, because I know my son. But in the meantime, I met the people at the other table, and I was busy talking to them. And by the time they found us a table, I had a new friend. So yeah, I'm very much into that kind of thing. But if do you measure success in business using authentic demand, or how do people measure what you're giving them?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to talk about. So all of our measures for everything we do at Succeed on Purpose is, did our customers' business grow? And what we teach them to do is to set the intention of where you want to be, and to measure the activities that you're doing and the impact of the activities, not so much your revenue. Because when you obsess over the revenue, you take your focus off of the relationship. So for example, if I said I'm going to do 3 to 4 activities for 5 days a week, did I do it? Yes or no? That's what you want to measure. Secondly, did those people that I was building those friend relationships with, what became followers? And then how do I make that a little bit better next week? And so you take your focus off of quote unquote what you get, and you measure the quality of the relationships. Are the relationships moving forward?
That's so interesting because so many business coaches focus on the income, on the finance, and saying, okay, what is your revenue
Yeah.
goal for this week or this month or this quarter? And yet you have to be able to pay your bills. So, money is important and you have to be able to focus on revenue, but you're taking a totally different approach. So when does the money come into it? When do you ever talk about money?
I always think in terms of more ROI, not just revenue. Like, what's the ROI, on this on an annual basis, on a quarterly basis? But when I'm actually doing the activities, I'm not thinking about the revenue. When I'm thinking about the business, I'm thinking about the revenue. But when I'm focused on the activities, I'm thinking about the relationship, and I'm measuring how many friends do I have? How many followers do I have? How many people have, what are our fans? And instead of thinking in terms of cost of acquisition and lead funnels and all of that stuff that puts your focus on what you get, what you measure is those relationships. And then when you're thinking about the business, you're certainly looking at the revenue. And I love to double every year and all of that type of stuff. But that's about the business. It's not about the relationship. And think of it this way, Gayle, if we're measuring relationships in terms of did they buy from me, then we're really not focused on the relationship. We're only focused on the revenue. And I just think that that's incongruent. And that's what causes us to be selling rather than serving.
So I want to make sure I understand this. Do you coach on both? Do you coach on both the relationship and the business, or only on the relationship?
Yeah, it's both. So when somebody's just starting in the business launch program, we're just teaching them how to put a foundation in place so they can replace their income. The second step is to really master authentic demand generation so they've got more friends, more followers, more fans, and more fanatics. And then once they've done those two things and their business is $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, because they focused on a good foundation in business launch and mastering authentic demand generation, then we start talking about scaling for profit and scaling for impact in the business evolution program. And that's when we really dig into the financials. But in the beginning of somebody just starting, if they're focused only on the money, their buyers are going to sense that and it feels inauthentic and the results go down.
So how long generally do people work with you? If I were to hire you, how long would I work with you, or is it forever?
Well, it depends on what somebody needs. So if somebody just wants to take one of the online courses, they can buy those courses. They're very affordable and rock and roll. If they join a coaching program, most of the small group coaching programs are usually anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks, and they get the training program plus the coaching program. If they do one-on-one, we break it into those same segments. So typically the business launch is about 2 months and we want them to replace their income by month 6. And then authentic demand is usually about 3 months to master that. And then we say, look, this will get you, well above 10K a month. When you're ready to go from 10 to 20 or 10 to 30K a month, then come back and do the one-on-one business evolution. And that's where we really start stripping on the financials and really putting infrastructure in place so that they can scale their business more profitably.
I would think that for people starting in business, that's a hard thing for them to embrace. People go into business and they almost think that they're going to start making money right away. And for them to know that they're going to have to wait many months to get the income that they're looking for is tough. It's really tough to get them to understand this. So what would be your favorite business to grow and why?
My favorite business to grow, quite honestly, Gayle, and probably why my whole portfolio of companies exist, are companies that are trying to make the world better in some way. And it means they have that dual cause of, hey, I want to make a good living, but I want to make my little square of the world here a little bit better. And we've done that. One of my clients is a barbecue franchise in San Antonio, Texas. But boy, they care more about their community than most people I've ever met. So really, I think that for me, it's businesses that they absolutely want to be successful financially, but they also want to make the world better. And those are the ones that I love to work with.
That's interesting. And more people, especially young people, especially millennials who are going into business, have this social cause section of their business, or they're in business because of a social cause that they believe in. So I would think that the millennials would be a fabulous market for you.
Yeah, the millennials were born thinking this way. I kind of joke around with them. I have a lot of millennial clients, and I kind of joke around with them that I kind of came to their party a little bit late. I sold a very successful business in early 2008 because I was miserable, and I felt like I was selling stuff and I wasn't making the world better. And millennials just get that, naturally, and they're really trying to do both. And I just got there a little late, but I'll never go back.
Well, you sold your business at the best time to sell it, because 2008, 2009 was the big crunch, and there were many businesses who stopped doing well. So you sold your business at a perfect time. You couldn't ask for a better choice than that. So you did something really, really smart. So, when you talk about what you're doing, and you talk about where you've been, what are some of the businesses that you had in the past? What did you learn from them?
Yeah, I always equate the best lessons for me were the failures. And I think one of the biggest failures, it was like one of those biggest success, biggest failures at the same time, was president of an internet subsidiary. And we grew it very successfully, and we took it public on the NASDAQ stock exchange. There were two other founders with me, and they, it on all exterior standpoints, it looked wildly successful, but the underpinnings of it were not. And eventually, when the dot-com bubble burst, we got burst with it. And I just saw a whole business that was 35, 40 million come crumbling down. And what that taught me is that you can't build a successful business on marketing and hype alone. You've really got to build it on relationships and sound fundamentals. And that in that scenario, that was not the case. And I think the only other one, that was also a big failure, one of our largest businesses in our portfolio was just rocking it, and we didn't have the right leadership team in place. And it went from being our largest business to being our smallest business in about 14 months, and literally wiped out about $600,000 worth of cash. And so when you go through those types of high highs and low lows, you really learn a lot about your character and about who you really are. And so I'm confident in saying I earn from my mistakes. I don't just learn from them, that I look at every mistake as an opportunity to not just learn, but to try to earn the next time.
That's fantastic. Well, we only have about 4 minutes left. So where can people and how can people learn more about Authentic Demand? And I don't know if you have a gift for our listeners or not, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Succeed on Purpose is where all of our training and coaching products are for entrepreneurs and people trying to make the world better. There's all sorts of free tools up there for them to check out. And then for your listeners, we're going to give them a 25% discount on anything that's on our website. They can do personal transformation, career transformation, business transformation. And all they've got to do is use the code Carson 2020. So your wonderful name, Carson 2020, and they'll get a 25% discount on any of those programs.
Fantastic. That sounds great. So is there anything that we haven't talked about, Terri, that you feel our listeners really need to know about you, about Success on Purpose, about Authentic Demand, or anything at all?
I always kind of end with this. This is something my grandfather taught me. You get what you focus on. And I think too often, particularly right now, we're focused on what isn't working and who's doing what to whom, and what's wrong with this Democratic Party, Republican Party, and whatever. And we're just focused on what's not working. And I just encourage all business owners to start every day making a list of what is working. And if you just do that, your life will get a little bit better.
Boy, very sage advice and very simple advice. Yeah, we all get so involved. It's interesting. I have friends that all they do is watch the news shows all day long, and I can't think of anything more depressing than that. And I say, you're going to find out what's going on somehow. I mean, it's either going to be on social media, on your phones, or somewhere you're going to find out about this. And why do you spend all day listening to the same things over and over and over again? But that's what their life is about. And this is so contrary to everything that I believe in, and of course, what you're saying is certainly not part of social consciousness. And I really admire the young people who are taking an interest, however, in our political system so they can educate themselves and not go by the hype, but see what really is going on and look at the records of all of the people who run and what have they accomplished and what have they done positively and negatively. I think that's all a part of everything that is who we are today. So you're serving a purpose, Terri, on so many different levels that it's incredible. So if you want to find Terri, you can do so at Authentic Demand or succeedonpurpose.com. And is there anything else? We have like a half a minute left.
Well, I would just say to your listeners, they've built a relationship with you, and if they think about that and what you love to do this, and just think about what you love to do and think about how you can build relationships with your customers, and you'll build a great business like you have, Gayle.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Terri. I hope a lot of people go to your site. I hope they take advantage of your tools and your methodologies, and the best to you for your future.
Thank you so much, Gayle.
You've had the opportunity to get to know me over the last few years, and I'd like to get to know you as well. One of the things I'm offering is training for the media. I have a wonderful program that will get you ready for any radio or TV interview you might be offered. Many of you are doing wonderful things, but no one knows about them. Others of you are successful and wonder what's next. Whether you're in a business or have a special cause or a specific event you're promoting, media can help. And I can help you master your message so you can master the media. If this sounds interesting to you, email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com with media training in the subject line. I promise I will be in touch. Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.